Oh, what a great podcast. Here we are back. Wednesday night means that we are back with another Nuts and Bolts show. The Game on Oz's recap show of the World of Tanks ANZ Premier League every Friday night on twitch.tv/World of Tanks ANZ. Got to jump straight into it tonight. On to Game 1. Game 1 of Round 2 was held last week. And it was between the Scorpions... Oh, hang on. Need to turn around. I am professional here. Game 1 was the Scorpions versus the Bulldogs. So this was last year's minor premiers versus the... I think they finished third on the ladder in the end. But both of them went out in round 1 of the finals. So there was a little bit of expectation here that this was going to be a pretty good match. So it started off round 1 in Sand River there. And Bulldogs had a lot of HP in the first game, but it took... the Scorpions took it away a fair bit and ended up having the tank advantage. So while the Bulldogs had a lot of health, the extra tank is always going to be better than the HP advantage. So Scorpions ended up winning there on defence. Second round, Sound River with Bulldogs on defence and the Scorpions on attack. It was a reasonably quiet round by World of Tank standards, but Bulldogs also took that one out on defence. So one apiece heading into the change onto Ruinberg. So which the round 3 Scorpions took that one also on defence. Ended up being quite a defensive game as well, because round 4 on Ruinberg with the Bulldogs on defence, they also won that on defence too. So it was ended up being a 2-all draw with fairly quiet match, although we'll talk about the Fantasy League later on and you'll see that some of the Bulldogs players still managed to get some quite high damage. Game 2 though. Game 2 between the Adelaide Action X and the Christchurch Conquerors. So these two guys... Action X has been doing quite well this season and only just missed out on a finals place last year. And the Conquerors, they've had a bit of a rebuild, so they're in a rebuilding phase of this, but they've brought some exciting matches in the first 2 weeks of the ANZ Premier League. So in round 1 on Himmelsdorf there, Conquerors quickly moved on to capturing the command point there, but unfortunately sort of backed themselves into a corner. And Adelaide Action X were able to move in and just get them in crossfires and win on attack there. Win on defence, not attack. They won on round 2, Conquerors set up really well to defend, but they bled out too much HP, and in the end, the Adelaide Action X took away the round 2 win, going up 2-0 in the best of 4 round there. Round 3 on Ghost Town. So you would have seen a little while ago a tank trying to do a nice little jump. Thought that was pretty cool. Just get a little bit of air, but you've never seen a tank get air before. Probably never see it again, but it was good fun. But yes, once again, Action X on defence, they set up well and just punished the Conquerors with a crossfire. But what I was happy to see is that in round 4, the Conquerors got a little bit of a fight back and ended up winning that. Came down to a 2-on-2 fight right at the end there, which was pretty well fought out. So that was pretty cool. It was Adelaide Action X ended up winning 3-1, but it does mean that we haven't had any 4-0 games in the series. So that's fairly impressive, I think, especially considering how the Sentinels went last year and how Adelaide are looking this year. It's quite impressive. Game 3 then, we move on to my very own Perth Panthers and the Auckland Archers. So I was hoping that the Panthers could do a little bit better than they did last round. They did pull out some good stuff, but they're still looking a bit rushed. Round 1 for, Prokhorovka, I think. We're going to go with that. You've got to do it in the Russian accent when you say it. So the first round, Panthers set up very well, but Archers just left their run late. If they'd had even another 20 seconds, well, not even that, so probably another minute or so, they would have won that easy. Round 2 with Panthers on defense, Panthers on attack, and Archers on defense. Panthers have tried to set up and just have a brawl, which has not worked out well for them. I don't know if they're just not getting their tank composition right, but yeah, but whenever they've tried for a brawl, it hasn't worked for them. So Archers won that one on defense as well. Then we're on to round 3 with Himmelsdorf, which you're seeing at the moment. So the Archers tried to get up and put that cap pressure on, and eventually the Panthers snuck back up and took that round. And also the Archers win on defense. So you can see it was Archers in round 4 win on defense. So they've cut in and just took the Panthers tanks apart. So defense seems to be the name of the game again in all these rounds. So very, very rarely do you see someone win on attack and then drop a defense game. Usually if you win on attack, you can hold on to your defenses, because when you're defending, there's only, 6.5 minute game. So they have to come to you. And if you set up right on defense, it's virtually impossible for that to happen. That said, Game 4. Now, Game 4 was between the Melbourne Matildas and the North Sydney Sentinels. So this one was tipped to be our first 4-0 whitewash game there. But I'll tell you what, did the Matildas come to play? This was a ridiculously entertaining and competitive game. So I don't know what the Matildas drank or what they've been watching, but they had the Sentinels numbers pretty early on. And as you can see here, there's already a 5v3 tank advantage to the Matildas here, and a fairly significant one. And then on to round 2, where they just snuck in. Within a minute, this game was over because they sent Whippet out on like a little bit of a deviation away from everybody. And these 3 guys snuck in, put on the cap pressure, 20 seconds, they won. They captured the little command point. So that white circle you see is the command point. And oh, sorry, I've just been told my mic's too quiet. Hey, we'll turn down the music a little bit. But yes, so the cap pressure that they put on in that second game was crazy. And Whippet just distracted the others, and all of a sudden it was done. Then on to round 3 with Cliff and Sentinels started to fight back. So they gained their composure and just used their focus fire really well, exposed a little bit of the inexperience on Matildas. And even like this, there was some unlucky stuff there. There was like 3 bounce shells in a row here for poor Geordie. This should have been over 3 shots ago, but just kept bouncing shells. It was just unlucky, man. But in the end, what most were predicting to be a 4-0 whitewash in favour of the Sentinels ended up being a draw. So that was a little bit crazy there. But it's still good to see that the ANZ Premier League can still throw out some surprises there, man. And it makes for exciting games. It's crazy. So, one thing that would be remiss of me to mention, well, if I didn't mention it, was that the Sentinels are still undefeated from Season 1 as well. So, Season 1, they had 4 draws and a heap of wins, but this season they've had a win and a draw, so they're still undefeated in all their games. Even the 2 finals that they played, they won. So that's pretty incredible, and I'll be interested to see how long they can keep that run from going. So now, after week 2 in the ANZ Premier League Season 2, we've got Action X, the clear leaders with 2 wins up the top. So they're outright first. Sydney Sentinels are also outright second after their draw. Because it's interesting that we've only had 2 teams that have won. Everybody else has had draws. So, and I'm happy to say as well that all the teams in the bottom half have had at least draws. So everybody's got some points on the board. Between 1 and 2, then equal third between the Archers, Matildas and Scorpions. They're on 2 draws apiece. And then in equal 6, we got the Bulldogs, Christchurch, and the Mighty Panthers. So there's still time. We're only 2 games in, another 6 to go before the finals, which will hopefully, fingers crossed, the grand final being at Fortress Melbourne in Melbourne. So really hoping that we keep COVID free over there and that we get to see a in-person final at Fortress Melbourne. So next we're going to show off what I'm going to call my play of the round. So it's hard to go past the shock and awe tactics of the Matildas here. Game 2 of their match against the Sentinels here, where Whippet's gone off, he's just doing his thing, he's distracted the Sentinels are set up far enough away, and the 3 Matildas players have just driven in, and the Sentinels are too far away, they can't do anything. Not so good for the Fantasy League points, but it meant that we've got a match that was just over so quickly, and you can see that there was a Hail Mary shot from the Sentinels to try and get the reset, but it wasn't happening. Sentinels were too far away, and the Matildas just took it so quickly. So next week, round 3, this Friday the 26th, I think. Yes, Friday the 26th. So this is round 3. Almost, I think this is the last round before we break for Easter. So get your fix in while it's there. We've got the Melbourne Matildas and South Sydney Scorpions opening at the night at 7 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So it's 4 o'clock Perth time or 9 o'clock New Zealand Daylight Savings Time. Followed by the Christchurch Conquerors and North Sydney Sentinels. So, and then Adelaide Action X and the versus the Auckland Archers, and finally the Perth Panthers versus the Brisbane Bulldogs. So I'm going to be quite interested to see how the Conquerors go against the Sentinels. After last week, I think the Sentinels will be doing a lot of more soul searching and probably taking it very seriously. Because there's so many people were tipping them to beat Matilda, not only beat Matildas, but flog them really. And Matildas just showed up, they had a bit of a plan, and they took it. They took it right up to the Sentinels. So the Conquerors themselves, they're a bit of a mixed bag. They're still coming together as a team, but I reckon that one's going to be the match to watch out for. I think it has the potential to be very, very entertaining. Between the Matildas and the Scorpions, see, because it's so open again, with the Matildas having such a good showing against the Sentinels, they could very well win against the Scorpions and just blow things open a bit more. And then Adelaide Action X and the Auckland Archers, well, with how the Action X have been going, it'd be hard to tip against them. I reckon they've got to be red hot favourites at the moment. And whenever they get to play the Sentinels, that's going to be an amazing match too. And then lastly, we've got the Perth Panthers versus the Brisbane Bulldogs. So, once again, as much as it pains me to say, because the Panthers are my team, I don't think they're going to win that one. Brisbane are probably a little bit unlucky to have come up against the Sentinels in the first round, and so they ended up losing that round, which was their loss, and then they drew last week. So technically they're on the same points as the Bulldog, and they're in equal 6th place. But I think the Bulldogs are better than their position says, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bulldogs come away with the win there. Then, so very importantly, we have to look at the Fantasy League Team of the Week. So every week you can go jump onto the World of Tanks Fantasy site and pick your own team. There's a prize, I think it's 20,000 in-game gold for World of Tanks for whoever's the best. And you can see this week who earned the most amount of points. Now, the teams work the same way as they do in the real game. So you can pick 5 main players and have 2 reserves. So in this case, if you did the best, if you picked the right players, you could have ended up with a maximum of 1,315.1 points, which is a pretty incredible point. So I don't think anybody got there. But I was lucky enough to have 2 of these players in the top 7 in my team, and actually I moved up. I think overall for that particular round, I was down on week 1, but combined with my week 1 scores, I went up 5 spots. So I'm 42nd in the league at the moment. So I'm pretty happy with that. Just got to keep it going, keep it up, and we'll see how we go with that. Now, I know you've been hanging out for it. It's time for a tank fact. Very important. So today we are talking about World War II tanks. Now, on the 14th of August 1941, there was a town, and I'm going to do my best to read this out again, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to butcher it. Krasnogvardesk. So I'm hereby referred to as the town, because I just cannot pronounce that one. So there was a German Panzer division that was approaching this little town, and they were very, very under-defended. Luckily, there was this one Soviet commander there, Lieutenant Zinovy Kolobanov. He had 5 KV-1 tanks, and he managed to set them up in a way that all these tanks were hidden, and the approaching Germans couldn't see it. But more than that, the road of the town, there was only one road in, and the rest was boggy marshland. So these German tanks, they're rolling up the road into the town. The lieutenant's, he's got his tanks there hidden. He does a very strategic thing of only getting one tank to fire at a time. And luckily enough, his first shot that he shoots, it hits the lead tank in the German division, knocking it out. He can't move. They're stuck. Second shot hits the last tank in the division, holds them in, pens them in there. And while some Germans thought, this is it, we're going to move, and as soon as they've moved off the road, they've got involved and just become freestanding targets. So these German tanks, they're bogged, become easy targets. 22 German tanks and 2 towed artillery pieces fell to just the one tank before it ran out of ammunition and had to be swapped out. So then the other one came in, another tank came in, and 21 more German tanks were destroyed in half an hour. In total, 43 German tanks destroyed, and by just 5 of the KV-1s. That's crazy. So in a tank battle, they just pick off the first one, pick off the last one, and then just have a free-for-all in the middle with a clever use of some tactics and knowing the terrain. So that was amazing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is this week's tank fact. So hope you've enjoyed that all. Looking forward to the games over on twitch.tv/World of Tanks ANZ from 7 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. Tune in, catch them live. That's all we've got for the show right now. We'll be back next week. Catch me in the World of Tanks chat on Friday night as we watch these games and see these beautifully entertaining shows like these ones. Come and have a watch. You'll see it. It's very easy to pick up. I've picked it up. All right. So if I can pick it up, anybody can pick it up. So come and have a watch, and it will be amazing.